Welcome to this Mastery Empowerment course from New Earth One Network. This is designed exclusively for your higher self connection and embodiment.
Today, I get to welcome the founder of Academy for the Soul, Christel Hughes. And if you're not familiar with Christel, most people know her for her lightning fast and laser-focused intuitive readings. She's known as the spiritual trainer to the stars, but her work has broadened to include multiple platforms to higher consciousness and energetic transformation. And Christel's purpose is to bring and shine light into the world and to operate as a conduit of divine truth. And believe me, she does all of that and more. So I'm just so excited. She's founded the entire Academy for the Soul online. It's the only online school for the intuitive arts. So I just want to say welcome, Christel.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting to be here. What a pleasure, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, my goodness. So today we're going to focus on energetic contracts that bind people and spaces. We're going to be getting it, you can get intuitive readings. You can get some of those laser fast readings, some contract scanning with Christel. You can talk to your space. So if you want to ask a question, be sure to raise your hand if you're on the phone, or type your question into the Q&A box. So let's just jump right in, Christel. Let's talk about those contracts. Why don't you start? Can you explain to us just a little bit about energetic contracts, their background as you see it, or, they've been given to you?
Yes, well, I have to give just a little bit of background myself, about how I came to find out about contracts. Because, again, people assume sometimes that when someone has an opening, a spiritual opening or awakening, and suddenly they know everything about the world of energy. But that's not the case, right? And, even though I had that experience where it seemed suddenly my clairvoyance was met with the clairaudience. So finally I was getting the messages that went with the visions that I was seeing. Although I had that opening, I didn't know anything about the world of energy. I had to begin to study. And for me, I was a behaviorist, so I first came from that background of understanding behavior. So then starting to be able to see and experience and have that narrative, with my clairaudience, now things started making sense. And so for me personally, I began to start understanding my relationships in a deeper way and starting to get a glimpse of the contract. But it first came as a feeling tone, right? For me, it came as that, ooh, wait, there's something that's binding me. There's something that's keeping me locked in here. And my first experience of that was being in a relationship that was unhealthy. It was a karmic relationship. And, I'll go a little bit more because I know that there's people on the call that go, yeah, I'm in a relationship right now and I know I should be out, or it's not going so well. So that was kind of the first entry for me into the world of contracts, that it really came from this experience that I had of not being able to have my freedom. Okay, so the way that I see now contracts is I really see them from that universal standpoint. I see that they're karmic in nature, and that contracts are the way that the universal intelligence keeps the checks and balances in life and with all life. So contracts are a manifestation of that requirement. It requires us to live up to our actions. And I see that infinite intelligence, or the divine, organizes consciousness into a vibrational entity called a contract. So contracts are alive with energy. And we can have a contract with another person, or we can have it with an entity, and it can be more than one, right? And that's what keeps the energy alive. The binding of that is important as well. But if we look at the contracts as being alive with energy, then we can recognize that as we grow and evolve, so do the contracts. They grow and evolve as we do, and they change as we do. And when we, again, are in action, when we bring a moment of forgiveness, it changes the contract. When we bring a moment of awareness to a persona that was impacting the contract and we transform that persona, it changes, right? So that's how I see the contracts playing out in a person's life. And so they're alive, they can evolve, they can dissolve. We can clear the bindings that hold them into place. But it's truly interesting to see the evolution of a contract. And I had an experience. Would you like me to share an example, a cool example of what I saw in a client?
Oh, yes, please, please.
Yeah, so, it's a very interesting thing. I had a client whose contract I got to see change before my very eyes, okay? And it was because she was a longtime client and she would come in. I saw the contract when she was a child with her father. And her father was quite controlling with her. And so it was a very binding contract. And the impact that it had on her is that it kept her feeling like she had to withdraw from situations, right? It had her withdraw. He was so controlling that she became insecure as a child. Then that contract shifted as she got older, because I got to see her now as she was older. Her father got ill. And the contract shifted, where when her father got ill, she became the caretaker. So the contract that they had shifted. She became the caretaker of her father. The illness was actually a catalyst for the healing of the relationship. So the contract changed. Now, he eventually passed, and when he passed, we were in session together. And I saw the contract literally lift out of her aura. It was as if it flew out of her aura. All the energy charge left on it, it was sent back to the universe, I assume. It was like this whoosh, and it just went back to the universe. And I saw her energy settle back into her power center. So the energy came back within her, and I saw what looked like in her aura this packaged present, this beautiful bow and this beautiful package. And I didn't know what it was at the time, but I told her what I saw. And then it turns out she told me that she inherited his estate. And I assume that the present in her aura was her inheritance revealing itself as a gift with no contracts attached.
Oh, wow. That is so cool. That is so cool.
Yeah, pretty wild.
So do we all have contracts? Do we all have them?
Yeah, I believe we do. And again, from my experience, the most binding contracts are those where we're in a love relationship, where there's physical, exchange of energy. And with those contracts, I see them in the energetic field, but I also see that where we enmesh our energy bodies, there's a stronger binding contract, you see. So I think that, yes, we all have them, and I believe to different degrees we have them, but, those love relationships, those are the most difficult. It really is difficult. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So are we setting them up before we incarnate into this, into our physical bodies? Is that how we end up with them?
Yeah, this is a cool question, right? Because are we setting them up? Again, the universe has its way, right? It has its way. Think of it that the incarnation gives us an opportunity to shift our energy, to upgrade, to evolve. So being able to incarnate to me is a gift. And then that's the way that the universe lets us have an opportunity to shift our karma that is there, that's in the past lives, even that we've accumulated, that's in our genealogical lines, our ancestral lines. We're not just here to shift our own energy. Gosh, that would be good if we were, but unfortunately, as we have looked into our charts, in Vedic astrology, they believe that we are shifting at least the last 7 generations of karma. We're here as a representative of our family of at least the last 7 years. And so we have to look at it as, wow, we're so grateful to incarnate, to be given that opportunity to shift these contracts, to work things out. Because from what I've heard from, a master teacher, is that many beings don't get to reincarnate to play that out for a time in the in-between. So I say yes, we do have them set up for us, and maybe we play a role in who we want to choose to incarnate with, our soul family that we have. Most of the time we're doing that. And I also can see that we can create contracts ourselves while we're in this lifetime. And we have to watch out for that, right? Because we have aspects of us that are playing out that can also be responsible for creating new contracts that may or may not be healthy ones.
You say that, and I see personas like behind my back signing on the dotted line for me.
Right? Yeah.
No, don't do that.
Line. Yeah, stop signing me up for this. I don't want to get involved. I just want peace. Can I just have some peace? Yeah. I understand.
Oh, my gosh. So how can someone determine if they have a contract?
Oh, yeah. We know that every relationship has a contract. And what really we want to do is we want to determine to what degree the contract is a binding contract, right? And so the binding, meaning you have a commitment to keep it functional. You have to give energy. You have to feed it. It's still going, right? It's still playing out, and you're having to play your role, and you're contributing energy to the contract. And so we can see that this is a very kind of tricky way of being in relationship with people or with things, right? Or with other energies that may even not be on this planet. But in relationship, what I've seen is that sometimes a person, or again, a person's personas or a part of them that has an agenda will bind another energetically, so that that person is thinking of them more often, right? Or engaging with them emotionally and mentally. Or maybe there's a contract and that person keeps it binding because of the way that they set up scenarios in life. Or like you said, instead of your personas kind of, getting you involved, right? That other person somehow gets you entangled. I mean, I had a situation with my mother in which she got me very entangled in a contract, and I had nothing to do with it. And what she did is, in a state of desperation, you know how those in the mail, you get those, sign up for this credit card and you can get a $5,000, line of credit instantly. Well, she filled out that paperwork with my Social Security number and signed my name and charged up the credit card. Yeah. So, about 8 years ago, I was wanting to buy a condo. And so I got my credit, run, and I didn't think anything about it. I knew that I had perfect credit, and it came out that I owed $5,000, that I had debt to this credit card company. Okay? So, of course I was in shock. I was like, what are you talking about? But I remembered my mom saying something about this Disney credit card that she had gotten recently, and sure enough, that was the Disney credit card, And, well, what I didn't know is that she signed my name and it was in my name. So, therefore, that, when she didn't pay the bill, it actually hurt me. So you see, there's all kinds of strange things that we can get ourselves into or that others can get us into. And also I've seen, Also, I've seen that that people will create these contracts or situations where you feel like you have to get permission from them to be yourself, or that you have to check in with them to ask permission, or somehow you feel obligated to them. So contracts are really tricky, and we have to be, aware of who we're around, who we give our power to, what we say, okay? Because a contract becomes binding, like a new contract in this lifetime, when you give voice, right? When you give voice. From the universal standpoint, if you say yes to something, you're giving permission for that. If you take action and go along with something, then you're giving permission, right? But especially voice. So, for those, and including me, for many years, those of us that we find it hard to say no, you see? We find it hard to say no, so we get kind of hooked in or wrangled into situations, right? And then we get in the situation, we're like, what did I do? I really don't want to be here doing this, I don't want to be sitting through this concert, or, I don't want to be at this party, right? But again, in giving that yes, we have to watch out, because that's binding. And many people, don't realize that. But on the other side of it, when you're in that place, when you have been told something, when someone has shared with you, yes, I'll do that, and they're not in integrity and they don't follow through, then what happens is, again, it may fall on to you, right? So we have to be very clear that contracts, as they're binding, are binding us energetically, okay? They're binding us energetically.
That's so interesting, because the definition of contract talks about, the agreement between two people, to do or not to do something. It's like as a noun, but if you look at it as a verb, it turns into contract, to shrink,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
so we have to be
Because
very careful.
Yeah, it's saying that this energy is assigned to this action. You see? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to use up our energy. It uses up our energy. So
absolutely.
it can contract for sure. It can restrict. Yeah.
So how can someone determine if the contract's still binding, or if it's completed and they can just let it go, if they have gotten themselves in the situation,
Yeah, everybody is on the call going, good question, Deb, good question, right? Yeah.
Please, how can I get this gum off my shoe?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and today we're going to just do the first, kind of initial process of, helping people see how they can identify the contract in their body. We'll do that a little later, but, what we're looking at is, does this relationship have some emotional charge to it, right? And does the contract have, an emotional charge to it, being positive or negative? Because sometimes it's positive, but there's still an emotional charge to something, right? And so those binding contracts have you feel the sense of attachment, right? I'm just drawn to him, or, I feel pulled in by someone, right? Or to an experience. You're attracted to it. What has you go unconscious and go over to that person? It's just like you're drawn, and so it'll have some kind of emotional charge to it. Okay. Now, the way that I see it, when it's binding someone, there's different things that you want to look at, but when it's binding, you'll actually see, or this is how I see it, and it may be how some of you see it as well, that it will be a full contract. Okay, so if I just tune in with someone, I'm actually seeing the contract like this piece of papyrus, and I'm seeing that there's writing on it. And when it's binding, usually what will happen is there's little energy streamers that I see that are literally attaching it to, right? Like it's woven into the person's energetic body, okay? And it can be woven into the person's energetic mental body or to their emotional body, right? Those are the most common. And so if I see that deteriorating, I know that the contract's dissolving, and the contract dissolves by action. To create a contract is usually by doing some action. To dissolve the contract is by doing some action, taking some action, you see. So sometimes this is playing a role for someone else. Right? We play a role for them in their lifetime, and then we're done with that role, and that's it. So that's how I see it. So, but we've got to see how you see your own contracts in your energetic field, right? But one of the most interesting situations that I saw, which, how cool this was, that this happened before this call, because I was doing a reading on a Q&A, and a person was talking to me about how she was having such a hard time. She knew that this relationship was over. In fact, she initiated the divorce, and yet I can't remember how many months after the divorce, she actually got pulled back into the relationship, and the relationship went on for a time, but it was not a good relationship, you see, and it wasn't a healthy relationship. So she's asking me to kind of tune in and see what's going on here. And it was the wildest thing that I saw when I looked into the energy, because I saw that there was no actual contract that was a universal contract, or that was a contract created by infinite intelligence between these two people. What I saw was that the client's persona, right, the part of her that was still attached to this person, right? So this part of her, whatever that part was, it could be that this persona was desperate for attention or something, and I'm not saying that's what it was for her, but it was a persona that was invested in keeping the relationship going with this person. And the persona created a fictitious contract. It looked like a ghostly contract. You know what I mean? Like if you saw a ghost and what it would look like, I saw this kind of ghostly contract hanging in her aura, and I saw that this persona was taking a percentage of her power, and it was having her influence her behavior, that she didn't know the difference. Yeah, right? She couldn't tell the difference, because when you think about it, that contract is lingering in your energetic field, and how do you really know unless we bring that to your attention, right? That you're going to be able to know the difference. You're going to be able to see, is this binding, or is it deteriorating? Is it almost gone? Or is it made up by a persona in this case, and having the person think that it actually is a binding contract and acting accordingly?
Oh, wow. So speaking of bringing things to people's attention, do you want to take some questions? Want to jump over and basically the whole system is blowing up here. People have their phones, their hands raised, they've got miles of questions.
Deb, really too, I can also support people with doing contract scannings as well, and I know we can't cover everything with contracts today with a person, but maybe we can at least either take a question or we can do some scanning so that you can get a sense of where the contract is at this point.
Okay, so let me see. So Gil writes, "Hi Deb, Christel, and everyone. Please, can you tell me if I have some kind of contract keeping me stuck?" Anything?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So let me just connect in here. So just tuning in with higher self. So there is a binding contract. It's coming out of the right side of your body. Okay. And in looking at this, let's just check to see when this was created, because this is a past life creation. All right. And so looking at this past life, what I'm seeing is this feeling of obligation that you had. And it's almost like you wanted to move forward, but because of the obligation that you had at home, you had to stay stuck. You couldn't move forward, you see. It's like, no, I have to stay here. I have to help out, right? And I'm not seeing exactly what that is. It feels almost like you were living in a time where it was important for you to do work with the land, like keep the farm going, right? So that's what it feels like, the obligation. And but it had you trapped in a life that you didn't want. And I see you dreaming, but I see you not being able to take the action steps to fulfill on that dream. You're going to want to go back to that lifetime and clear regret, okay, and high levels of frustration, sadness, disappointment, and even underlying anger, okay? And then that'll help. Obviously when we clear the emotional energy around something, then it's easier then to clear the contract, you see.
Perfect. Can we do another one?
Yeah.
Okay. So this one is from JT. She says, "Hi, this is a timing question, when will I find a job?" But she says, this is the part that it was like, "My life is filled with negative energy and I feel trapped in my world. Blessing."
Okay. So let's just check to see. So what we want to do is I'm going to put you on the grid, and I'm going to check to see what contracts are starting to come in and starting to enter your field around jobs, okay? Because you'll ultimately eventually have a contract, right? We just want to check to see how close that is and how many are coming in. And sometimes this is what happens, right? When we're looking at what the future holds, we have to look at the future lifeline and start to see what those contracts are and what is being revealed to us. So let me just tune in and check to see here. So what I'm seeing is I'm actually seeing a contract coming into your left. Now, I can't give you timing because there is no timing in the universe. It's very difficult to read timing, but I do see that contract starting to come in. The way that you react to that contract is one in which it's like you're hopeful for it. I can't see the end result, like are you going to be happy with that? But I do see you hopeful, okay?
Okay, and I see, excuse me, I just lost it.
Uh-oh.
A whole bunch more. Okay. Can you tell me why I keep coming back to Berlin, Germany? This is Anne from Berlin. Can you tell me why I keep coming back to Berlin, Germany and my ex-boyfriend? Is it the city or my ex that I'm contracted with, or both?
Okay, so let me tune in. So let's just check to see, because this is really good. You know, just to give you a quick thing of what to do is anytime that you leave, and Deb, you know this too, anytime you leave a space or you leave a city, you want to release and cut the attachments with that, right, to at least free you up. So let's just check to see. So I'm just going to tune in. We just want to see the contract with the city. The contract with the city is still in place, all right? And I'm seeing it at, you know, about half of the way gone, okay? And let's see the contract with the person. Okay, the contract with the person is almost done. I mean, there's hardly any energy left on that, okay? I mean, it's like maybe an inch by 2 inches of the contract that's still there, okay?
And this is a great question. This is from Jeannie in Savannah, and she wants to know, like, can it be completed? So is it possible to completely fulfill your side of a karmic contract with someone but still be in contract because they haven't fulfilled their part? I thought that was a great one.
That's when divine grace comes in, do you see? Because, again, remember, action dissolves the contract. So what you're saying is, you know, are you powerless in that moment when you've done your role, but they haven't done theirs? And what I've seen is this is what happens sometimes with divorce, right? But what I believe is that there's only one truth. So let's say that there's a relationship, a marriage, and one person has evolved to the point where they have completed their side of the contract. They've made their contributions. They've, you know, played the roles that they've needed to for their partner, their wife or their husband. And that other person is refusing to take action, refusing to evolve, refusing. That's when I believe truth prevails, right? It's like your truth is that partner's truth. You can't have two truths. So they may say, but it's not good for us. You know, we should stay together, or I'm not feeling it, or but that's the persona that's running them. And so what happens is that if it's your truth and you're taking a stand for truth, divine justice will prevail. The infinite intelligence will shift that. In other words, let you off the hook, right? Because divine grace will come in to fulfill the contract itself. You see, that's why we're wanting to be conscientious about creating grace, because grace is that extra added little bonus, you know, that helps us, right, when we're in real need. And so what happens is that there's divine beings that are always doing good works on levels that we can't even see, that are creating almost like a reservoir of universal grace. And the divine can use that grace for that person so that that contract is deemed complete.
Oh, that's great. So I just have one. Paulette from Eden Prairie says, I feel a strong contract with my younger sister who controls all family drama and is a family bully to all. I feel my contract with her includes that I will not be as wealthy or more than her. I would like to release the contract once and for all. I'd like to get this gum off my shoe.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, see? Yeah. So what we have to do is we have to be sure, and we have to make sure that whatever energy that we are displaying, that we're keeping going. Okay, so let me explain it this way. Attachment can show up as an aversion to something. And the energy and how higher self is showing me is that she hooks you. She hooks you into your power center, right? So you still have a persona that is allowing her to hook you, whether that is that you get upset or you get depressed or you go into a fit of anxiety or frustration. So she's playing a role for you to clear that persona. Now, you don't have to be an angel by any means, and, you know, when we're dealing with someone who is controlling, you know, it's very difficult. But the issue is not with your persona engaging with her and letting her hook you, not really, because you can clear that persona, do an integration. But the issue is now mentally, your viewpoint of sister has been one in which you have an aversion towards her. Your attitude is what's binding, okay? So, again, when we're doing the clearing on contracts, there's many things that we have to pay attention to. And attitudes are one of the things that we have to shift in order to allow the burning process to be 100% complete. So you want to shift the attitude and shift the aversion that you have and really start to instead begin to get on the grid and flow higher levels of compassion to her, right? So in that place of witnessing her personas, and then in the place of seeing how you have personas that are trying to avoid her personas, right? Clear those personas, clean that up, clear the attitude, begin to see it as it really is, send compassion, and that will help shift the mental attitude that you have of aversion. And then you're going to be able to clear that contract all the way. And it may require you to distance yourself, right? Yeah.
So thank you. So do you see contracts with spaces? So, for example, I see, like, so say clutter showing up in situations where, you know, the contract with the space is complete, but then there's a persona involved, sort of that one, you know, signing on the dotted line, that's involved in trying to keep you stuck. So you start bringing in more and more stuff, and it just keeps you tethered, you know, to that space, so that you're not moving forward the way that, you know, you set it up. Or foreclosure situations where you're trying to, you know, to continue to get that gum off your shoe. You're just trying to be done with something, but it's not. But it's unfinished contractual business with the space. So the person, you know, so you're trying to get rid of it. So that's how do you see the contracts with spaces?
Yeah, and I'm processing too what you're saying there, because it makes a lot of sense. You know, I can imagine that if someone is bringing in all that clutter, it's like more that they have to deal with, right? It's more that they have to deal with or to handle, right? And so, yes, absolutely, I think we do. And also, you know, I think of the contracts with spaces, especially in a divorce type of situation, right? Because one person thinks that they have a contract with the space or the home. They even fight for that. They fight in the divorce That's my home. He's trying to take my home away from me, right? I mean, we've probably all known people that in the divorce, the person that we thought should get the home doesn't get the home, and it's like, what happened, and it's because the other one has the contract with the home. So it may feel unjust to us, that person gets the home, but the reality is again, this is universal intelligence that's playing out things that have occurred way before this lifetime. And, it reminds me of my attachment that I had, in my divorce, because I was so in love with the space. I had beautiful log cabin home that was nestled up next to the Olympic National Park on the peninsula in Washington. And we had 40 acres there, and it overlooked the Strait of Juan de Fuca. We could see Vancouver Island and Victoria all lit up at night in the mountains. And I was in love with that place. I mean, I planted trees and had a beautiful flower garden, and I was always the one nurturing the home, but in the end, in the divorce, he got the home. And in that, I felt so sad because I felt my relationship with my home was just ripped out of my hands, so I had to go through a whole mourning process with the loss of the house and releasing and letting that go. So absolutely, I recognize that we have contracts with spaces, and sometimes it's for a short period of time, sometimes it's longer. And I also, don't you think, Deb, that we have contracts with land as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And when you say for a short period of time, it just brought up for me an example of what I would call a sweet contract example, where I had a client contact me because to clear her space, and it was a situation where there was a cemetery down the road that had been moved. And so when I started to clear the space, there were like spirits using it like, a doorway, they were just coming and going all through that space. And so, we cleared it up, we set it up so that the spirits would not be coming into the space, but they also had a place to go home. They could go to the light. And in doing that,
goodness.
They were so happy. The land and the space was so happy. The client was so happy, and it was she had a contract to buy that land and to fulfill on having me come in, to have that happen.
Yeah.
It was really pretty soon after she moved into the space. And then now that contract's done. It's like, we're done.
Yeah,
and it was
complete,
just a very, it's a happy outcome, just boom, boom, and it's done.
Mm-hmm.
So, all to the, she just to have those spirits get a place home, that she had that contract. That was just so cool. So what happens if we don't complete on contracts?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Oh goodness. There's a list that. Let me just say this: that ultimately it's up to the universe to decide. And it's up to the universe if we have to continue on in, let's say, future lifetimes that we incarnate into, and to the degree to which I believe the energy impact is, because with every contract there's an energetic impact on us, but it's something that we have to endure, right? We have to endure that energetic impact when we are bound, when we're bound with something, and who knows what occurred, or who knows why we have agreed. And one of the things that I can say is that sometimes people show up in evil costumes, to fulfill on contracts for us, for the good of us. And we don't see it in that moment, but I really believe, my contract with my father, him showing up as, abusive, actually had me so turned off against those kind of, dark actions, the drugs and the depth of his pain impacted me so much. But again, in looking at that, it really drove me to being a good person, drove me to the light, wanted me to have a different, I had this idea that I wanted a totally different lifestyle than he had. And so he showed up in kind of this evil costume, right, for me. Well, I know that my dad is an absolute divine being. I recognize it. And he incarnated, and he knew that he had to play that role for me in that contract, right? So, I recognize that people show up in those different ways, and so we strive to complete on those contracts. Sometimes we're called to show up in our little evil costume for someone, and so we have to be very tender with this. We have to see, why are we being drawn to act in this certain way? And is it a contract? And so if we have regret about certain actions, we can bring forgiveness to those actions, because maybe we, again, did sign up for that role, even though it's uncomfortable. And so maybe if we hold on to regret of how we've behaved with someone and we don't bring forgiveness, we're not allowing the completion of the contract. And so we want to be in the most awareness that we can. But I believe ultimately we want to, let the universe decide what's going to happen.
That's just such a great reminder about how people show up. That I just love that. Do you want to do the process that you talked about in the beginning?
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Well, I'm kind of lingering on what I just said, because I think that I have to add in, when we have completed them and we haven't let go, like in the case that I was talking about, is in relationships, we have to watch out for the energy binds, all right? Because the energy binds us even more, and then we can get entangled. So if you know that a contract is complete, or that you need to be completed with a person, and you don't let go, what's happening is you're entangling even more. You're creating even more karmic binds. And sometimes what happens is that you can even get off your path. You can be thrown off your path. Or you can lose yourself in the whole experience. Like what we were talking about, Deb, if someone's trying to hold on to hold on to a piece of property, or hold on, I've seen people not come to the conclusion and the reality soon enough. And then it does end in them losing all of their money. Instead of selling the home and getting out and being able to use that money to move, the person holds on to the point where they lose everything. And it's because of a stubbornness. It's because of attachment. So we can get even more entangled. We can lose ourselves. Not to mention that we're creating stagnant energies in our being, and they form in our bodies, they form in our aura as calcified energy. So it really is vital for us, right, to be aware in the moment, to listen, especially if we're in a dormancy phase or cycle. If someone gives you advice in a dormancy cycle, you're more than likely to not fully listen. You're only going to get a part of what was said, right, because you're not really fully present and there to receive that. And that's your karma, because you are in a dormancy cycle. But what I'm asking you is, if you do ask for truth to be revealed, and maybe someone that has the ability to see, and it doesn't mean that person has to be, so intuitive. It could be your best friend that's telling you and encouraging you, please release and let go, get out of this marriage, or, whatever the loss is, let go, get out. you have to listen and you have to really feel in your own body and being if that's for the highest good for all, because you will create this calcified energy that then takes a lot longer to clear and release. And then also for those of you that haven't cleared contracts, in past relationships, how do you expect to draw in and play out the contract with your beloved? Right? So we have to, again, free up energy. If we know that the contracts bind us and restrict us to a certain degree, there's energy allocated to that contract in this lifetime. When we clear on that, we're supposed to move on. If you keep allocating energy to a non-existent contract and keep it alive, then, you're missing out. That energy is supposed to be going towards calling forth new experiences or going into new creations, like a beloved relationship. So we need to make sure that we get all the enmeshed energy and, out, and we release the energies that are entangling us and, clear that so that we can ultimately have more energy to put towards building a life of freedom and love and abundance and joy and happiness. Sorry.
Perfect. No, thank you for that.
Yeah. So, Deb, it looks like that we are coming on the top of the hour. Do you want to go a little bit longer? I just want to make sure that we have enough time and that is that we're not going to run out of time.
I do if you do. I do if you do.
Yeah, so let's do that, because what I'm thinking is we'll do the process and then maybe what do you think we could go in and take some more questions or do some more contract scanning?
Yep, we have so many people on the phone. I'd love to get to at least a couple phone calls. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah. All right. So what we're going to do with this process is we just want to first take you through the process of identifying your contracts, or at least one contract, in this process. We want you to know how to identify the location of it in your own body and maybe be able to identify even the condition of it. If you can come from your higher self and not your personas, right? But I think it's important for this to be the first step, okay? Because I can tell you all day long, I can scan for you, Deb can scan for you, what's your contract with the space or with a person. But we want you to also be able to do that yourself, okay? So let's do this process of identifying your contract, the condition and location within your body. All right, so everyone just closing your eyes. Let's get connected in, closing your eyes. Now I want you to choose one person and just imagine that person. Don't invite them into the space. Just imagine them, kind of bring them to mind, but don't draw them into the space for this exercise. So closing your eyes, move your attention out of your mind and imagine taking the staircase down to the doorstep of your heart. As you take the staircase down to the doorstep of your heart, you're arriving at the doorstep of your heart. Open the doors of your heart. Step over the threshold into the sacred space of the heart. Now imagine sinking down into that sacred space of the heart. Call your higher self-consciousness to you. Imagine your higher self-consciousness meeting you there in the sacred space of the heart. Become the embodiment of your higher self-consciousness. getting into the rhythm of your heartbeat, aligning your heartbeat with the rhythm and the pulse of the universe. Coming into that state of coherence and congruency. Now call all of your energy back to you. Bring that energy back to you, specifically below the eyebrows, behind the eyes, and in front of the spine. And draw that energy of your awareness from wherever it may be, from any people, places, experiences, circumstances, situations, and bring it all the way down into your body, through the core of your body. So again, below the eyebrows, behind the eyes, in front of the spine, and draw it all the way down. You're packing your awareness inside your body to the base of the spine. Now let that awareness move through the legs, knees, shins, calves, ankles, feet, and toes, through the body. Bring your awareness to the base of the spine. Form your grounding cord connection. And now send your grounding cord all the way down into the earth, locking into the large ball of light that holds those high vibrational healing waves of energy. As you're connected to that large ball of light, you're grounded. And you have a way to send down the lower level vibrations to recycle them. We're going to spin a vortex around your body and aura counterclockwise. So for the duration of this call, you're going to be able to trust that that vortex can draw down lower level energy thought forms out of your aura and body and recycle them. Now imagine getting on the golden grid of grace. The vertical beam of light from the golden grid is coming from above your head, moving through the crown chakra, through the body, all the way down into the earth and beyond. And one of the horizontal lines from the grid coming from in front of your body, moving through the heart chakra, out the back heart chakra. And another horizontal line from the grid from one side of your body, through the heart chakra, out the other side. So fully and completely connected to the grid, the structure of the universe. Now I want you to imagine that you're paying attention with your inner eyes. You even have these inner feelers that may go out. If you're a feeling person, you may have a sense of just knowing where something is or why it's there. So however you get the information, I want you to be open to trusting your higher self, as you are now your higher self revealing a contract to you. Make the request that the contract with this person is going to reveal itself to you. Ask to see your binding contract with that specific person. Now get a sense of where the contract is located in your body or in your aura. Again, see the contract with your inner eyes or your little feelers. You may even recognize the exact location in a chakra, in a specific energy body, or even in a specific organ in your body. It's okay if you don't see it with your eyes. Just recognize where you're feeling or knowing that that is showing up. Now let's go deeper. What's the condition of the contract? What's the size of it? the size of it in its original form, and now the size of it currently. So can you tell if there's a portion of it missing? As if it's been burned away partially or dissolved? So look at the state and condition of it. And you may even see writing on the contract, or you may not. Either way, it's okay. And let's just get a sense of how attached you are to this contract. Do you have expectations around this contract? Let's go ahead and clear the expectations today that you have around the contract, freeing you up and allowing the contract to make any readjustments that it needs to make. So whether the expectations are positive or negative, let's free up the contract. So we've spun a vortex around your aura and body. Imagine sending all of the expectations and projections that you've had from the lower self onto the contract down into the earth. Releasing expectation energy, releasing any projections, sending them down, down, consciously being aware of them going down all the way, down into the earth, into the large ball of light, into those high vibrational healing waves, and dissolving, transmuting, purifying that energy. Now get a sense of the contract as it's been freed up from at least the expectations and projections, and allow it to reveal itself to you now. There may be a shift already in the contract. It may appear to you differently or feel differently. This is the beginning of working with the contract. Thank the contract for working with you today, for revealing itself to you. And know that you've brought consciousness and awareness to this contract today. Now call all of that energy back to you as you come back into the now, having thanked the contract. Come back into the space and call all of your energy back to you. If you want to drop the vortex now, you can drop the vortex. And imagine a golden sun above your head. And so all that reclaimed, recycled energy is filling up in the golden sun above your head. And you get to choose what you want to use that energy for. Now open your body and let that energy turn into golden light pouring into your body, filling up your body all the way up. Every cell, every muscle, every fiber, filling up the space between this beautiful golden light. And letting that overflow from your body, your heart, into your aura, filling up the aura with the light. Good. So you are now illuminated. You've reclaimed the energy. Excellent. So now coming all the way back into the space right here, right now. Okay. All right, Deb. Are you there?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I understand you're going to be having a live Burning Your Binding Contracts call that's coming up.
What we're planning on is Burning Your Binding Contracts live call, and it's going to be a live experience where, yes, I am going to be sharing a little bit more and educating a little bit more about binding contracts. And also we are going to get on that call as a collective. We're going to use all of our energy, and we're going to do some processes, formal processes, to clear and release contracts that may be the most difficult ones, right? Those that you have attachment to, those that the expectation is there and it won't clear, those that are actually courting you, okay? And so we'll go into, again, a little more depth and have you understand all of that and what's required in order to really clear that contract for good. You know, because sometimes people will clear contracts and it'll appear that they will come back, and they will. So what's required for you to really keep the contracts cleared and from recreating in your future, all right? So we'll discuss that, we'll go through, we'll utilize the power and the potency of the group, right? So that we can burn the binds that are holding us back from our brilliant life, and so that we can feel that sense of, again, more freedom and abundance and joy. And some of you have been on these types of calls with me, so if you've ever done the timeline teleclass, or if you've done the sexual healing workshop, it's going to be similar to that, okay? So we're going to go in and spend some time and go very, very deep. And this is something that you're going to be able to use forever, anytime you need to go and go back. If I do a reading for you and I say, okay, you've got a binding contract, you're going to know, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to do that. And again, I think that there is such value because we're all going to be together. So it actually, you know, allows you to not have to do so much work in the clearing process. With all of us collectively together, there's power in numbers, okay? So we've put this together for you because we didn't want to leave you without the choice to make, to be able to say, okay, I saw the contract, I see how it's there, I see the attachments, I know myself, or I know my personas, and I need to do something about this. So it's going to come up very soon. We want to make sure that we're getting to this. And so, yeah, please go in. It's a great deal for what we're going to be doing. Okay, so get that now.
I so appreciate you doing that, because this topic is so important, and it's just too big for us to handle here, you know, and it's just, we both were getting, we had to do contracts, and so I love that you're doing that, and I much gratitude for you to do that.
Yeah, because contracts can be like an anchor, you know. It's like you're trying to evolve, you're trying to move forward, and they're like an anchor holding you in place, and they're usually so unseen and unknown. And so if you imagine that there's been things that you've been striving to achieve and you're going, what in the world is going on? You know, and you don't know, okay, how much action am I supposed to take? So maybe you've even been putting action into it and you don't know, well, just a little more is going to actually clear this for good, you know, because it's in the unseen. Sometimes we get disappointed and we want to give up and stop before, and we're so close to that. So, you know, I think this is just really fascinating, and I think that it's something that is definitely big enough that we have to pay attention to, because it will keep us anchored, and we won't know that it's there, and we'll get frustrated. And so we want to release that, and we want to put you in your power. So I think this definitely gives you that ability to, disconnect from that anchor, or pull that anchor up and use that energy for something else,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So do you have time to take a call? Do we need to be done? I mean, we're running.
No, let's go. On Pacific time, it looks like we have a little bit of extra time over here. So how's it looking on your side?
Yeah, I've got a little extra time too. So.
Okay.
All right.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've got a cell phone in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Last 4 digits 6077. Hello. Who do we have here today?
Hi, this is Nan.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hi, Nan.
I can hear you.
Oh, hi there.
Hi.
Yeah, hi, Nan.
Hi. I have all sorts of contracts.
Well, can I have you be specific so that we can make sure that we have time for other people too?
Yes, indeed. I have the one with the aliens
great.
and one with my beloved, and I'm not sure where the beloved thing is. And the one with the aliens, they're equally important to me.
Well, your beloved, actually, the beloved contract is coming up, and what I'm seeing that there's kind of like energy, and it's almost like I'm seeing it like a movie, right? It's like past, almost like fireworks energy is how it started. This firework energy that was there, and it's more electric in the beginning, right? And as I see that, it's almost like the electricity gets drawn out of it. But the reason why the electricity gets drawn out is because there's actually a deeper commitment to an evolutionary path that you have with your beloved. Do you see? And so what's happening is there's a depth now that's wanting to reveal itself for you and your beloved. And so we have to be careful, because sometimes our mind can go, well, there was a lot of electricity in the beginning. How come there's not that same electric charge? And on either side, either you or the person, right? We don't want to misinterpret it. Okay, so what I can tell you is higher self is showing me that it may have lost that electricity, but the truth is that there's more validity to it. It's like there's more consciousness that's wanting to come in, where you have been in past lives together. Now you're wanting to go deeper, okay? And with that depth, you're actually doing things and working things out on multiple dimensions, okay?
Wow.
So there is that connection. It is happening still, even though there's not electricity. And, you will need to honor it in whatever is playing out right now, okay? And the other thing that I'm seeing is it's almost like there's a cheek that's turned, away from you. Don't worry about that. Okay, because if there's energy in your beloved that's kind of turning away, there's still that depth. And again, that experience as the higher selves are playing out, you're going to benefit from that. Okay, so that energy looks like it's going to gain a little bit more momentum on these other higher realms, and you're going to be able to fulfill on that contract. Okay.
So is it going to be staying up in the air, or is it going to come down to earth?
I don't know. I can't tell by what it's showing to me right now. But what I can tell you is there's going to be a depth to it. There's vitality still there. Your higher selves are definitely engaged, and it's going to be fulfilled. Okay.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Christel. You so rock. Thank you. Blessings.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Ciao. Thank you, Deb.
Oh, thank you. Okay, now we're going to go to, looks like Brimfield, Massachusetts, last 4, 3977. Hello.
Oh, hi. Hi. This is Mary Grace.
Hi, Mary Grace.
Hi. I'll tell you, listening to your talk, I see all of these contracts that have happened. I'm 78, so I've had a lot of them, and I see all of the scenarios that have played.
Wow.
And the only thing I can ask you is that, because I am stumped on this, I thought I had cleared all my contracts, but there is something still, the calcification is what you called it in my left knee.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
There's something still there that I can't seem to reach. I even did a release of that on my father's side.
Well, let me just share with you, that the energy that's showing up is between your power center and your sacral chakra. That's where I'm seeing the energy.
What's my power center? What's my power
That's
center?
the third chakra. That's like your stomach area. Okay?
Oh, the third.
That's
okay, right.
The solar plexus chakra. So what I'm seeing is I'm seeing the energy there, okay? Now let me just tune in and see what's the contract with this energy blockage specifically, right? So let me just tune in and let's just check to see what higher self is showing the contract with this energy blockage. So actually it is a karmic contract, and it's a contract, it seems like that it's some kind of contract with one of your parents that you had, okay? So let's just check to see, is this with fathers or is this with mothers? So it's with father, okay? And let's see how many generations ago this contract was binding. 3 generations ago, okay? So let's tune in here and let's just see what the primary emotion is related to that contract. All right, let me just check to see. So the energy around this, the action is one of disappointment. Emotion is disappointment. Action is fault finding. It's like that nitpicky fault finding, just peck at you, right? Until it's just like the person is like, okay, forget it, And that's the energy that I'm seeing in this past genealogical line, all right? So when we do the class, you're going to want to make sure you've written down the emotional energy and what the action was related to that, because that's going to come into play, okay? So make sure you write that down.
Well, I've written it down as you were speaking. In fact, I've already signed up for your Burning Contracts course.
Okay, great, so good. Yeah.
Well, even during the meditation, my father popped up, and I said, maybe it's all my males combined, because that's what it feels like. All of the male energy from my sons, my father, 2 husbands, that's why I'm glad that you have specified it more, because I know father came up, but I had that other feeling also. Yes.
There you go. Wow. Well, great. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Bless you, both of you. I got the chills on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So shall we do one more?
Yeah, let's.
Okay.
I'm so excited.
Okay. Okay, I have one from Portland, Oregon, last 4 digits 6470.
Hi.
Hello.
This is Claire. Thank you both so much for this call. It's been awesome, and I am so excited for the Burning the Contracts call.
Oh, good.
Hi,
Claire.
Hello. So my question is regarding a beloved. It's a beloved question, and this is a very long-term relationship. Almost 40 years now, and it felt, when I first met him at 18, I didn't understand any of this, and so it didn't register. But I've been thinking a lot about it, and it feels very karmic. But I did want to ask, because I'm so entangled in it.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, and I see it. It's in front of your throat. Right?
Yeah.
In front of your throat chakra.
Okay.
And the entanglement are these little energetic streamers that are coming out and reaching out to your throat, almost like, it's wrapped around your throat. Okay? So you're very restricted in what you can say or how you can present things, so tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I've spent much of my life being who other people want me to be.
Mhm.
So I think that it's just a pattern that's continued through. And I have to say that it's so fascinating to me because I'm really not this kind of a person. But when I met him, it was literally like getting hit by a bolt of lightning. It was instantaneous.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, that's a definite sign of karma. Like boom, and you're just like left like shaking, going what?
Yes, but, that's exactly what it was like.
Let me see the condition of this contract. Is that okay if I look at the condition of the contract?
I'm so grateful.
We're seeing we're seeing how it's binding. But let's just check to see. So with this contract, I see the energy streamers kind of attached to either side of it. And let's just check to see. So we just want to know what that contract is looking like. So it's a little bit, it's kind of trying to hide from me, you see. So there's got to be a persona in you that is a little resistant. Like you want to know, but you don't want to know. You want to know, but you don't want to know, right?
Yep.
So
absolutely.
We've got to make sure that we get that aspect. I can find it regardless, but, just pointing it out because you definitely have to be in the mindset of for the highest good of all.
Okay.
It has to be that way. You have to live your life according to that value. Okay. And so let's just check to see because anything else is agenda and you don't want to have agenda against the divine's will.
Correct.
So let's check to see what that contract actually is showing up as. So I do see about a quarter of that contract left. Okay. I can't tell you how fast that's going to burn off with you actually shifting for the highest good of all. When you align with that for the highest good of all, it may, greatly reduce this contract. And when we start to clear, so on the call that we're going to do, the action that we're seeing for you is an action of being uncontrolled. So that person is uncontrolled. You can't control that person. So the action is uncontrolled. And the emotional energy within you is hesitant, confusion, all right, uncertain.
Yep.
Okay. So those are your words. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Wow.
But
Thank
no
you
worries.
so much.
For the highest good, it's all going to play out. Okay.
Well, I am so excited about this call, and so I'm very much looking forward to it, and I'm so grateful to both of you. This has been amazing today as well. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you. And thank you, Christel. Oh, my gosh.
Woo-hoo. I know. It's so good.
Time went so fast.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, and I love you all. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
So thank you for being here, and thanks everyone for tuning in and listening. Just like Christel said, I just love all you guys so much. I'm going to send a wave of loving energy to envelop you and your space. Blessings, everyone.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in Unity Consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.